Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. I am Dwayne Rothman. I am the Furious Wrestling Fan. And it's been about a little over 2 weeks since I've put anything up and I've actually watched or reviewed anything or talked about wrestling in any way. And when I did, it was about the 2019 NWA Crockett Cup, which was a complete and absolute disaster. So, this time, we're going back to the WWE to talk about the 2020 Money in the Bank, which was, strangely, not quite as a disaster, but for other reasons, where the very end made it even more ridiculous than said Crockett Cup, I believe. So, talking about all things Money in the Bank 2020. One thing I did love about it is the fact that it was nowhere near as long as pay-per-views have been in the past. It was only, 2 or 3 hours maybe, and that's like not even counting the pre-show. I did watch the entire first episode of The Last Ride, the Undertaker documentary after that. That's why I'm getting this a little bit later than what I would have liked, but 2020 Money in the Bank, I wasn't really overly excited for hardly anything on this card. Even the Money in the Bank ladder match, was really all that important or interesting to me until they said that they're going to fight through the entire corporate headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut, the actual Titan Towers, the WWE headquarters building. And then at that point, I thought to myself, well, this is bound to be one of the most ridiculous and most pathetic things I've probably ever seen. So I just have to watch this just out of sheer curiosity. And I just had to see exactly how they were going to pull this off and how ridiculous it possibly could get. And which we'll get back to that a little bit later on in this review. So, Money in the Bank 2020 obviously starts out with a pre-show. Again, there's no damn fans. These pay-per-views are nowhere near as big as they have been in the past. Is there any need for a pre-show? I don't think there was any need for a pre-show in the first damn place, ever, period. But the fact that they've had to downsize their pay-per-views, a pre-show is definitely not worth much of anything now. It was completely pointless. So we start off this pre-show, and we don't even get anybody, as your panel for the pre-show that's worth a damn. You got Peter Rosenfuck and somebody who's an absolute nobody. Scott something. I don't really give a fuck what his name was. Doesn't really matter to me. But two guys who have absolutely no business being there to talk about something that they have no idea what they're talking about. And so once again, we have people doing a pre-show that give me no reason or want to watch this. And so the only reason I watched it is to see if there was actually going to be any matches on the pre-show, which I'll get to also in a minute. So, after these two nobodies decide to talk for a few minutes, we get an interview from the New Day, which the New Day, their entire gimmick has run its course a long time ago, yet the sad part is it's still entertaining. If you've seen one interview or match or promo or anything from the New Day, it's the same thing that it's been for at least the past 2 to 5 years, and yet still somehow I get a little chuckle out of every time that I see it. So, it's no surprise why they are once again the tag team champions. We go from that to a Twitter video of Tamina. And this fucking Twitter video was damn near unbearable. Apparently she's got an anger problem. And there were little stormy cloud emojis behind her with green screen effects or whatever the fuck. And this was some Twitter thing talking about how she's working on her anger problem or something. Once I started watching, and about 5 seconds in, I didn't really pay attention to what was said. I kind of tuned that part of it out. It just, visually what I was seeing was completely ridiculous, and I did not need to see it. I couldn't take any of it seriously, and to be quite honest, this whole I'm going to say this right here, right now. This whole social media shit, as far as the wrestling goes, is driving me up the fucking wall, and it has been for years. This whole thing about, well, this match is trending on Twitter, or use hashtag fucking whatever the hell to talk about this match on social media. How about watch the motherfucker and not worry about hashtagging shit? All of this social media has been one of the worst things that could happen to professional wrestling in history, period. I'm so sick and tired of it. And the fact that they're using, like, social media to, like, drive some of their storylines and plots now, that's fucking weak. That's weak as hell. You know, where's a good old-fashioned story where there's a personal vendetta and a grudge between two people on television? Give me an angle maybe where they invade each other's homes or something like that. Not, oh, they went back and forth on Twitter. I see that kind of half-ass, petty-ass shit amongst regular Joe Schmoes on a day-to-day basis. I don't need to see it in my fucking wrestling. It's pathetic, it's weak, it's trash. Anyway, this Tamina Twitter video was garbage too. So then we go to the first match, and the only match on the pre-show, Cesaro against the returning Jeff Hardy. Now, this is Jeff's first match back. He came back on the SmackDown previously, had a thing with Sheamus, but for some reason he's facing Cesaro. It seems like there's no rhyme or reason for this match to happen. It just is. There's some back and forth to start the match, but Jeff is caught by Cesaro on the outside, and he's dropped like stomach first and sternum first on the barricade. Cesaro's working over Jeff. We get some submissions in there, some grounded submissions. Jeff tries to fight back to no avail. We get a middle rope leg drop by Cesaro. Eventually, Hardy starts to fight back. We get the typical and classic Jeff Hardy offense. You get the jawbreaker, the inverted atomic drop, the leg drop, the low drop kick, the whisper in the wind, the twist of fate. We get a 2 count. Jeff goes to the top rope. We get a gut wrench suplex off the second rope by Cesaro. They fight back to the outside. Cesaro is injured his knee from the whisper in the wind move. Hardy landed on his leg. So Cesaro, he's selling a knee injury. So they're fighting on the outside. Cesaro hits his knee on the steps. They get back into the ring. We get a swanton by Hardy. Jeff Hardy wins. It was a decent match. But it wasn't pay-per-view worthy, in my opinion. It was a typical match that I would see on a SmackDown or a Monday Night Raw. But I guess since it's on the pre-show, none of that fucking matters anyways, because is that technically part of the show? I mean, I consider it a part of the show, to a certain degree, but it didn't, again, there was no build up to it. It was just a typical match. I'm not really sure what else to say about it. They talked about, this comeback story for Jeff Hardy the entire time. I mean, literally from start to finish. They've been airing these little video packages on this redemption story of Jeff Hardy for the past several weeks. I hope, for the love of God, that Jeff stays on the straight and narrow. He doesn't get injured. Jeff Hardy has been one of my wrestling icons, one of my wrestling favorites, and almost like superheroes ever since I was a kid. He's always been one of the ones that I watched wrestling for. He's just one of my all-time favorites. And, for the past, I can't even count probably how many years, is just, he hasn't been, I guess, being used or lived up to his own potential. And I hope that all these video packages and talking about this comeback story and all this stuff, that they do give him one last push and he doesn't fuck it up. I would love to see one last good Jeff Hardy push before it's all said and done. So I'm hoping that this is the start of that. So I notice Actually, even before that match starts, I did jot down one other thing here. They got ladders all over the Performance Center. I know that it's Money in the Bank. I know that this is the show that I'm watching. But if the Money in the Bank ladder matches are not taking place here, which they're not, why do you have all these ladders just randomly set up around the area? That's absolutely pointless. They just get in the way. Get them the fuck out of the area. There's no point to him being there. It just looked awkward and dumb and stupid to me. But Peter Rosenfuck and Absolute Nobody, Faceless Nobody, they talk a little bit longer before we actually get to the main show. So finally we get to the main show after another hour of wasting my life. And we get the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match. The New Day defending against The Miz and John Morrison, Lucha House Party, and the Forgotten Sons. And oh my God, was this a train wreck. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. I absolutely hate multi-man matches. A regular tag team match is one thing if the tag teams in the said match know what the hell they're doing, which nowadays most of them don't. But you start including even more teams or more people, even in like non-team matches. We're talking triple threats, fatal four-ways, whatever. Too many people, it means too much chaos. Nobody can get their shit in. And nobody knows. I can't follow what the fuck they're doing because I don't think they know what the hell they're doing. And so it was the same thing here with 8 goddamn people in this match. Kofi from the New Day and Grand Metalik from the Lucha House Party, they start the thing. We get a bunch of quick lucha / chain wrestling stuff. We get the blind tag from Blake, the fucking blind slap on the back tags that I absolutely despise. That right there, just a minute or two into this match, that first back slap tag, everything started going right off the rails right from there. Already. Which I expected nothing less going into this damn match. Morrison comes in, Grand Metalik and Morrison, we get a Spanish fly from the top rope to the outside that clears everybody out. Why the fuck were they all out there just huddled into this one big group? There was no reason for any of that. Why weren't they in their fucking corners where they belong? No, they were all gathered in one damn spot near the entrance ramp. Spanish fly takes out everybody. A spot that had no business happening to a bunch of people standing around that had no business being where they were at. It made no sense. Didn't need to happen. Forgotten Sons, they end up taking the advantage for a minute, but Lince Dorado and John Morrison, they end up tagging back in again. At this point, completely loss of control, no idea what's going on. People are in and out. You got 4 people in the ring, 5 people in the ring. They're tagging, blind tagging back and forth. I don't even think the referee knows who the fuck's legal at this point. It's just a complete clusterfuck. And then at one point, the Forgotten Sons got, I don't even remember his first name, but I wrote down Riker. Riker is the, I guess, manager or the third man of the Forgotten Sons. He's on the outside. He pulls the ropes down and somebody tumbles into the outside. I don't even remember who it was. I don't really care. The referee ejects Riker out of ringside. Well, the commentators sit there and say, well, there's no DQ in, a fatal 4-way match. So what Riker did was completely legal. So it didn't matter that he did it. But then the referee ejects Riker from ringside. A, why the fuck didn't he do that to start with? And 2, if it's no disqualification, what does it matter that he did that in the first place? And being that it's no disqualification, theoretically, with some kind of logical sense, why didn't Riker just jump in and it'd be complete mayhem in the first place? If there's no disqualification, why aren't any of these teams worried about the tag team rules? Just let it go tornado tag rules and just everybody fight everybody until you get a pinfall or submission. So the fact that they have some rules and yet it's no disqualification with 8 people and a manager who gets ejected for doing something that is apparently legal, none of this makes any fucking sense. None of it. At all. I'm completely confused. So, regardless of all of this shit that makes no sense and everything that's going on, Big E eventually hits the big ending and the New Day win. They retain the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. And thank fuck this match was over. I couldn't wait to move on to the next thing because I hated this right from the start. I knew I would. I was hoping that this wasn't going to be basically telling me what was to come for the rest of the show, because this was an utter disaster, and I could have cared less who won this fucking match as long as it ended. When it did, I got a little bit of relief for a few minutes anyway. It was a joke. So, moving on, we go to this next match. Excuse me. This next match is supposed to be R-Truth versus MVP. Now, I thought MVP had retired from in-ring competition. Apparently that's not the case. At least according to this in the first place. Once again, no lead up to this match. No rhyme or reason why it's happening. It's just a match to take place for no fucking reason. Now, I understand that this event is a lot shorter than they probably ever planned it to be. Shorter than, like, WrestleMania. It seemed about as long as a, Monday Night Raw. But you can't tell me that there weren't something else going on one of these shows somewhere that could have taken the place of this match. For instance, I know the whole Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville thing is one of their main storylines right now. Why couldn't they have had a match right here? No, instead we got R-Truth and MVP for no rhyme or reason whatsoever. Just send them out there. So R-Truth, in typical R-Truth fashion, he's being a complete and total goof. I've grown to accept that. That's just his gimmick, so I kind of look past that. But he comes out, he's singing his What's Up song with no audience. That was kind of funny, in a sense. He's asking everybody what's up once the song is over, and of course he gets, no response. Obviously, no crowd. It's typical R-Truth stuff. I got a kick out of that a little bit. MVP comes out. Now, R-Truth is trying to teach MVP about basketball for some fucking reason. Then, Bobby Lashley comes out. He gets in the ring. He tells MVP to go home. He's got this. MVP leaves. So what you're saying is, Bobby Lashley can just make his own matches now? He just has the authority to do that? Then if that's the case, then why is he injecting himself into this match? Why doesn't he inject himself into the WWE title match? Or the Universal title match? Just something like that. A match that's a little more important. Hey, tell him, I'm just going to be a part of the Money in the Bank match. Why pick this one against R-Truth? None of that once again, it makes absolutely no sense. What the fuck is going on? So, apparently you're not supposed to question that. You're supposed to just look past that. So now Bobby Lashley's in the match now. So he grabs R-Truth, he starts throwing him around the ring. Eventually, you basically just get a spear from Bobby Lashley and he wins. It's a fucking squash match. What the fuck was the point of any of this shit? Once again, no build. Lashley can take whatever match he wants. It's a squash match. It's absolutely pointless. It's a complete total waste of time. You could have done anything else with this time on this show, but you didn't. You got this instead. The only thing that I can guess is that they're trying to make Bobby Lashley look like a badass. I'm sorry, WWE. As far as I'm concerned, that ship just sailed a long time ago. You should have done that with Bobby Lashley years ago. It's a little late for that now. You could have done this on a Monday Night Raw or a SmackDown. It didn't need to take place on a pay-per-view. Or this could have been on the fucking pre-show and swapped this out for the Jeff Hardy-Cesaro match. But no, you slapped it right here at the beginning, basically, of this pay-per-view for no rhyme or reason, other than the fact that apparently just to waste time and just to piss me off. Congratulations, you accomplished both things. So we get to move on from that, whatever the hell that was. Next is the SmackDown Women's Championship match. Bayley versus Tamina. Now, I was slightly curious about this match. Tamina has never got a chance, as far as I'm concerned. My opinion, she's always been looked over, has never got a chance to really show what she can do, or basically prove why she's there in the first fucking place. So, Bayley and Tamina, they get in the ring. Bayley slapping Tamina, which is a mistake. Tamina overpowers Bayley real quick. Bayley does gain the advantage. Shortly thereafter, she wraps Tamina's leg around the ring post. She's working the leg quite a bit at this point. Tamina, she tries to gain back the advantage. She goes for a super kick. Bayley blocks that and reverses that into a leg submission. At one point, Bayley attempts she tries to pick her up for what I would imagine is like a Samoan drop or something, but kind of like fireman's carry position. But Bayley couldn't hold the weight. She collapses and Tamina just crushes her, essentially. Tamina super kicks Bayley. Bayley falls to the outside of the ring. Bayley's thrown over the announce table at one point. We get back in the ring. We get a Samoan drop. And as Tamina goes to pin Bayley, Sasha jumps into the ring. Tamina follows her out, runs around the ring a bit. Once Tamina gets back in the ring, we get a crucifix pin. Bayley wins. I don't know exactly what I didn't really have a whole lot of expectations for this match. God knows it had to have been better than the last two that I just suffered through. And it was. Overall, it wasn't a bad match. Bayley and Sasha are working great as a heel team right now. I'm really enjoying their chemistry that they have as a unit. You know, and they kind of give me this vibe. Back when we were doing SMIW, which was a little backyard wrestling promotion that we were doing there for a while, way back in like 2006, my younger brother, he had a friend, and they were a tag team, and they had this attitude about them where, you know, every single word they said was almost like a childish insult, you know, and they kind of had this attitude. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's kind of funny, and there's part of the reason why I enjoy that is when I see Bayley and Sasha doing kind of the things that they're doing, it kind of gives me flashbacks of Fear and Rampage's domination way back in 2006 of our thing, and it was I enjoy that. So I think Tamina did okay. I think the match was fairly decent. Could it have been better? I don't know. I'm not really sure. Again, Tamina, I don't think is possibly the greatest of workers compared to some of the other ladies that they have on the roster today, but overall, it was definitely a decent match and a lot better than I've seen in the previous couple before that. So, not bad. It was what it was. It was a decent women's title match. From there, we got the Universal Championship match. Bray Wyatt against Braun Strowman. Now, once again, it's just Bray Wyatt, not The Fiend. I wrote down here, why isn't it The Fiend? Now, as the match progressed, it made a little more sense. You know, they played off of the history between Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman when Braun was in the Wyatt family. Which, to me, is sort of strange, in a way, because as far back as I can remember, WWE practically focuses on the idea that don't think about anything that's happened previously than about a month ago. None of that previous to that matters or ever happened. Just focus on the here and the now. And that's kind of how they've always functioned. But they're playing on the history here. I will still make the point, however, though, that I had the same problem with the demon version of Finn Balor. Now, as far as I know, the Fiend has only been beaten once. And the same went for Finn Balor as the demon. He'd only lost once or twice. The odds of them winning are significantly better when they are in those personas. So to me, logically thinking here, if you can, even if it's like like a split personality kind of thing or something, knowing full well that you are a much bigger badass in the other persona and have a lot more success, why wouldn't you use that other persona all the time? Why didn't we get, like, some kind of an angle where Finn Balor snapped and he's the demon all the time and just crushed everybody for months? The Fiend is the same thing to me. I don't understand why we get, sweater wearing, hair pulled up in a man bun Bray Wyatt when we can get the Fiend and he can smash anybody in his path. Logically, these two things make no sense to me. So, I don't know. I just don't get it. I just kind of wanted to ask that, because to me it makes no sense. But either way, at the beginning of this match, Braun Strowman, he's dominating Bray Wyatt. They fight onto the outside pretty quickly. Bray Wyatt gets sent into the ring post. Braun tries to, do that charge around the ring thing that he does, but Bray moves and Braun tumbles over the announce table. Huskus the pig, the stupid puppet, shows up on the other side of the barricade. He's encouraging Bray Wyatt. Bray, he seems to be conflicted. He's, asking Braun, why are you making me do this? This kind of the split personality thing. So, again, with this being that there's history between the two characters, Bray and Braun, I can understand why we got Bray Wyatt, not the Fiend. This made a little more sense. The first time when he did it with Daniel Bryan made no damn sense to me, so it kind of just seems on what basis it's on. But anyway, going back to the match, we get a Sister Abigail, but Braun kicks out. Bray Wyatt goes for Sister Abigail again. It's countered into a choke slam. They make their way out of the outside again, and Braun Strowman runs through Bray Wyatt on the outside, doing that run around the ring thing again. Gets Bray Wyatt back into the ring. As Braun tries to get in, he gets kicked and knocked back down, but he kind of does that thing like Vince did at like WrestleMania 19, where he just kind of like peeks his head up over the apron, but now he's wearing the black sheep mask. So now that Braun's wearing the black sheep mask, he gets in, and Bray, being his delusional, demented self, saying, I told you I'd find him, I'd bring him back, things like that. And they get in the middle of the ring and they hug each other, and all the puppets from the Firefly Funhouse pop up. They're all happy. Braun takes off the mask. He stomps on it. We get a power slam, and Braun Strowman wins. The match itself, I think, was so-so. But it was the story that was decent. I separate those two things. When I think of the match itself, I think of the actual performance, the actual in-ring psychology of the maneuvers and why they're doing certain things. The story is different, which also means why they're doing other certain things. Your body language and, things like that. To me, they're two separate things. I mean, they're two separate things that go hand in hand to the overall performance, but there's two different aspects, if that makes any sense. So the match itself was so-so, but they told a decent story using the backstory of Braun and Bray and the Wyatt family and, the whole black sheep thing and all that. I actually dug the story a little bit, and luckily the story was good. And the story that they told in the ring was good, so therefore the match really didn't matter as much. So I could just kind of look past that in a way for this one. So overall, it wasn't bad. It was decent for, what it was, and I enjoyed the story overall. So, that was what it was, and it was all right. We move on from there, and we get the WWE Championship match. Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. They get out to the ring. We get a feeling out process. You get some lockups, some headlocks, etc. Some chain wrestling a little bit. Finally, Seth, he gets clotheslined to the outside. Drew ends up taking control. You get some really hard chops, some stiff chops from Drew, some suplexes, things like that. Seth, he goes to the knee. He starts working on the knee of Drew. We get a suicide dive by Seth. They make it back in the ring. We get a single leg crab by Seth Rollins, which he converts then to the STF, which then converts again to the crossface. I liked that. I liked that quite a bit. Being able to, adjust and transition from one submission hold to another. I like that quite a bit. There was something about that. It was fluent and it made sense. I liked it. Eventually you just get another dive by Seth Rollins. Okay. I don't think that was really necessary. Then we get 3 knees to the head of Drew. And at this point, Drew is looking weak, which, given Drew McIntyre's size compared to Seth Rollins, I was surprised to see this match going this way, being so one-sided. Seth Rollins goes for yet another dive, which, okay, at that point, 3 fucking dives, it's redundant at that point. There's no need for that, okay? Luckily, this time he gets caught by Drew and he gets a belly-to-belly suplex and, onto the table. So luckily, the third one didn't work, If it would have worked, I might have been a little more irritated than that, but after the belly on the table, Drew, he takes control of the match. We get some more suplexes, a big boot, spine buster. We actually get some offense from Drew. It's starting to turn around here a little bit. Seth, he's got some kicks, so he takes control back over. But then Drew starts kicking out of everything at 1. We get a big frog splash by Seth Rollins. He kicks out at 1 again. We get the big superplex Falcon Arrow combo by Seth Rollins, which I was fairly impressed with. Again, Drew is a big guy, and the fact that Seth pulled that off, it looked really good. It was impressive. We get to a point where Drew McIntyre gets hung upside down, that tree of woe position, as they've always called it. But as Seth Rollins, he's on the top rope too. He's kind of turned around backwards. Drew reaches up and just German suplexes Seth Rollins right off the top rope. I thought that spot was a little much. I think that at that point, I think they were trying too hard, to do things that were, I guess, overly complicated for how exhausted and fatigued they should have been. It was starting to look a little out of place, some of that stuff. But anyway, we get the ending sequence. We get a headbutt by Drew, and then, well, excuse me, I'm jumping ahead of myself. We got a super kick by Seth and the stomp. We get a kick out. So Seth, he goes for the stomp again. It doesn't work. We get a headbutt by Drew, super kick by Seth, then the Claymore from Drew, and Drew McIntyre retains the WWE Championship. This was a hard-fought match, and overall, I felt like it was a pretty good one, with the exception of, the nitpick that I just said a minute ago. Overall, it was a decent match, and I wrote it down here before he even said it, but I felt like this is a match that Drew McIntyre needed. He needed this match to look like a champion, to look good. And that's what they got. You can say what you want about Seth Rollins and in the past maybe being a little sloppy or not the safest of workers, but Seth Rollins has been around long enough now that I believe he knows what he's doing, for one. He's very good. His new persona, this Monday Night Messiah, now that he's turned heel, is very good. So you got a good heel and a good babyface for this match. 2 great workers that put on a very, very good performance. So yeah, I feel like he needed this. Drew McIntyre shakes Seth's hands and he thanks Seth, and he actually says he needed this. Now I feel like that's good for the story and for the character and for the show and all that, but I almost feel like that since it was good enough, I'm willing to accept and believe that he told him this for real. Like, he really did need that to happen. To be honest, this is the kind of match, in my opinion, that we should have got at WrestleMania instead of the bullshit sock lobster match that we have been getting for years on end now. That's a couple moves and it's practically a squash and it means absolutely fucking nothing. This makes both guys look strong as hell. And this is the kind of match that, you know, sets up a champion or someone chasing after a championship look like they belong in the position that they're in. So I enjoyed this match for the most part. It was one of, if not maybe the best match of the show. So very good job by both Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins. We go and get this thing is like a advertisement for Monday Night Raw, where it says, well, on Monday Night Raw, Becky is going to confront the Money in the Bank winner. So I'm thinking, okay, so what you're saying is a Raw competitor is going to win this then, right? Because if I remember correctly, I heard somebody at some point say that being that they have, you know, the Raw and SmackDown competitors, whoever wins challenges the champion on their respective show. So I'm thinking, well, this is foreshadowing as hell. You know, so if Becky is going to confront the winner of the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, then it's obviously going to be somebody from Raw. So the SmackDown ladies, there's no fucking reason for them to even be there because they haven't even done the Money in the Bank ladder match yet. So you basically told me 3 of them that aren't going to win. That's what I got out of that. So then we get to the next match. Now comes the main event. The Money in the Bank ladder match. I don't know, because for whatever fucking reason, they decided to do the men's and the women's at the same time. At the WWE headquarters, where they had to fight from the lobby. This is what we were told, people. To fight from the lobby to the roof, scale a ladder, get the briefcases, right? Remember this lobby part. So we go to start this, and all of the competitors, all 6 for the ladies, all 6 for the men, they all get entrances at the headquarters with, like, their music playing and shit. Like, why? What was the purpose of any of that? There was no call for that. That just looked silly. So all the women, they meet in the lobby. The men meet in, like, a weight room. I thought it was supposed to be the lobby. As far as I'm concerned, you lied to me. I'm thinking that all of them are going to start in the lobby, and you're going to get, like, this intertwined mixture of, like, the guys and the women right from the start. You know, maybe getting in each other's way or, you know, something. No, the guys started out in the weight room for whatever fucking reason. So these 2 matches that are happening in the same match starts off, and Asuka jumps off a balcony right to start with and just takes out everybody. She just jumps in an elevator and she starts heading up. As far as I'm concerned, Asuka pretty much wins already then at that point, you know? But we'll get back to that in a minute. The men start fighting in the weight room. King Corbin, he ends up throwing a weight, destroying a mirror. Bad luck, perhaps. You know, you break a mirror, that's not good. Otis, he ends up putting the weight bar with a bunch of weights on AJ Styles' chest, pinning him to the floor. Rey Mysterio, he's running through the hallways. He ends up going past a bathroom. Brother Love shows up for some unknown fucking reason. The men are all fighting in a hallway. 4 of them end up fighting into one single elevator, so I guess they're just punching each other as they go up several floors, I guess. I don't know. The women, they are fighting up a staircase, and then eventually they all get off the elevators and through the staircases, and they're all in the same area. Asuka gets off the elevator at the same time as everybody else, so somehow she got into an elevator, and these other 5 women made it to the floor that she was going to, up the stairs as they were fighting the whole time. So either they were very, very fast going up them stairs, or that's the slowest fucking elevator I've ever seen. They're in it almost looks like a waiting room of some sort. They got some chairs and stuff, and some ring posts with ring ropes and like a cage, like against the wall. Just a backdrop, or just some decorations. Basically. But Corbin, he gets tied up in the ropes, and Daniel Bryan's doing them damn yes kicks, and of course, there's no crowd. So Otis, like a dumbass, is standing there just screaming yes, yes, yes with every kick, which, why? That makes absolutely no sense. We get this fucking doink wannabe, pops his head over one of the chairs. If I really would have paid attention, I probably potentially could have seen maybe who it was. Who was under the paint, because I would imagine it'd have to have been somebody there for, we'd be able to, pick out almost like an Easter egg type of thing, but I didn't give a shit enough. Why the fuck was, wannabe doink there? I don't know. So the ladies, they, at least 4 of them or so, they fight into one of the conference rooms. And Dana Brooke, she ends up grabbing a folding chair and hits, I believe it was Nia Jax with it. So you got these nice office chairs, surrounding this, big conference room, and yet there's a single folding chair in this room, right? I'm supposed to believe that for no reason? You okay? So Dana Brooke, she grabs some briefcase. It looks like it's supposed to have a bunch of money in it, and she looks like she's so happy that potentially that she just won the match. Stephanie McMahon shows up. Tells Dana it's the wrong one. She still got to go to the roof. So we get a little cameo appearance by Stephanie McMahon. The women are fighting a little bit more. We get the women's right by Lacey Evans to Carmella. At this point, they haven't been following the guys for a good while. And this right here, I felt like this was going to be the problem with this type of match to begin with. Before I knew that they were going to do the men and the women's together at the same time, is that you can't follow everybody, right? And so I'm supposed to just blindly look at what I'm seeing and just focus on that and that alone, and try to shut down my subconscious and thinking, there's supposed to be a whole bunch of other people doing other shit. Where the hell are they at and what are they doing? I'm just supposed to ignore all of that. Well, AJ Styles, he's going through one of the hallways. He's looking for Rey Mysterio. He sees a picture of The Undertaker on the wall, freaks him out. AJ Styles opens one of the rooms, and it's lit up blue, like The Undertaker's entrance. There's a casket in it, freaks AJ Styles out. Aleister Black basically knocks him into the room and closes the door. And Aleister Black walks away. We then pan to another camera shot of Paul Heyman enjoying this feast, like in a catering area or something. Otis shows up. Then everybody shows up. And basically, I don't think it was all of them, but most of the women and most of the men are all standing there. While Paul Heyman is standing there, dumbfounded, like he can't believe that everybody's there when everybody's supposed to know that this match is supposed to be happening there. And for some reason, it's in the middle of the night and there's all this food sitting there when there's hardly anybody else around. So none of this is making any sense either. Otis grabs some food. He throws it in Paul Heyman's face. And all of a sudden, we get a food fight between all the men and all the women. Rey Mysterio gets smashed between both Nia Jax and Otis. Carmella's powerbombed through a table by Nia Jax. And at this point, I knew it was going to be ridiculous. I knew this was all going to be a joke. At this point, the only reason that I continued to watch this was to see how much I was going to be able to laugh and how ridiculous it was going to get, because there's no taking any of this seriously. Not even close. There's no way that this is a wrestling match that I'm supposed to believe they're actually fighting for a contract for a world title match. That's not a thing here at this point. Hasn't actually been from the very beginning. Quite honestly. Otis, he goes to another room where he finds even more food. He starts stuffing his face some more. Fucking John Laurinaitis shows up. Of all damn people. He gets a pie to the face from Otis. Asuka, she runs into a room where we got some janitor mopping a floor. She's being loud and obnoxious, doing the stupid heel Asuka shit that they're having her do, which is completely dumb. She runs off when all the other ladies start chasing after her. Dana Brooke, she slips on the wet floor and like hits the back of her head on the floor. So it's like, I think she's even out at this point. I don't even think you see Dana Brooke after this. So Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, they're fighting into a couple of the rooms, and they end up going through a door, and they wind up in Vince McMahon's office. Vince McMahon is sitting there. They fight for another couple seconds, and then they stand there. They look at Vince. Vince tells them basically get the hell out of his office. They straighten up the chairs and walk out of the office. Possibly my favorite part about this entire thing, and I'm not going to get into how I feel about all of this supposed pandemic stuff that's going on right now, but perhaps my favorite moment of this entire fiasco happens right here, where he tells them to get lost. They straighten up his office and leave, and he walks up to his desk. He gets some hand sanitizer. He sanitizes his hands, and then he sits back down. I laughed so hard seeing that. It almost, to me, was like, almost like a little slap in the face to all of this shit. You know, I thoroughly enjoyed that little moment. I thought it was great. So anyway, a bunch of the guys are fighting in a big conference room at this point. Well, then we pan to the roof, where a few of the ladies end up making it to the roof. And these ladies are Nia Jax, Asuka, and Lacey Evans. So Nia, she gets a ladder into the ring, and now all three of these ladies are fighting back and forth to get up the ladder and get the briefcase. My question is, at this point, where the fuck are the men? You know, it's like somehow they were all, to a certain degree, able to about stay together, about on the same floor as everybody else. But now some of the women are on the roof and the guys are nowhere to be seen. So these three ladies, they fight a little bit longer. Well, Asuka, she starts getting up the ladder. Baron Corbin shows up. King Corbin shows up. He goes up the other side of the ladder. King Corbin, for whatever reason, is like trying to like pull Asuka's arm away, like he's trying to stop her from getting the Money in the Bank briefcase. But since the men and the women have their own briefcase to go after, I don't understand why this mattered. I don't understand why he was trying to stop her. It made no sense. Leave her the fuck alone, get your own briefcase. I thought that was... There's no other way to express it, guys. There's no other way for me to say it. It made absolutely no sense at all. Well, then Otis arrives, and, excuse me, I'm jumping ahead of myself a little bit. Asuka, like, slaps and kicks King Corbin off the ladder. She grabs the women's briefcase. Asuka wins the women's portion of the Money in the Bank ladder match. Then, Otis shows up, and all the women are gone. Asuka, who literally just grabbed the women's briefcase, is nowhere in sight. Nia Jax, who was there, is nowhere to be seen. Who the hell was the other one? Lacey Evans, nowhere to be seen. They've all just disappeared into thin air. Okay? We get the stupid caterpillar thing by Otis to King Corbin. Well, then Aleister Black jumps in. We get the black mask from Aleister Black. And then Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black, they start going up the ladder. They're knocked over by AJ Styles. At this point, King Corbin chucks Rey Mysterio what looks like off of the roof. Just off the side of the building. And then that's preceded by King Corbin grabbing Aleister Black and chucking him off the roof. At least that's what it looks like, okay? By the camera angle and how they did it, it is to my best knowledge of seeing this, this is what I'm supposed to believe, is that King Corbin just murdered two men. Right? It looks like King Corbin just threw Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black off the roof of a 10-story building. That's what I'm supposed to believe right now. Things just continue on. We get the phenomenal forearm from AJ Styles to Otis. And AJ Styles, King Corbin, they go up the ladder. They both pull the briefcase down at the same time. For whatever reason, all of a sudden, Elias shows up out of nowhere and hits King Corbin in the back with a guitar, smashing that to bits. When that happens, King Corbin and AJ Styles both lose control of the briefcase. Otis grabs the briefcase, he catches it as it falls, and he's standing there on the mat. So, by apparently that logic, Otis wins the men's portion of the Money in the Bank ladder match. So, what the fuck? Right? When I watched the Boneyard match and the Firefly Funhouse match for WrestleMania just some time back, I assumed and knew that we were going to get these, pre-taped, like, more cinematic, overly planned movie scene supposed wrestling matches. This was another one of those things. It was so over the top and so ridiculous. Obviously, there is not one shred of me that believes that this was an actual wrestling match or some kind of wrestling contest or sport contest or any kind of contest whatsoever. This was just another film scene is what this was. And I'm afraid that this is where things are going. And it really makes me worried about the future of wrestling or even sports entertainment at this point, seeing a bunch of crap like this. Once Otis grabs he's got the briefcase and they announce that he's the winner of the men's portion of this so-called match, Michael Cole jumps back in on commentary. There's no commentary this whole time, mind you. None. And he goes, well, Otis, he wins the Money in the Bank. Otis is Mr. Money in the Bank. See you later, everybody. There's no mention of the fact that two men just got threw off the roof of a 10-story building. There's nothing. He mentions nothing about any of that. Nobody seems freaked out by this. Nobody is afraid for their safety. Nobody seems to even realize what the hell just happened. Oh, good for Otis. He gets a shot for a title, whenever he seems fit. But I'm supposed to believe there's two men splatted on the fucking concrete 10 stories down, but no mention of that. No fear of their safety in your voice. No nothing. No mention. That baffled me. That right there. If I was supposed to take any of this that I had just watched seriously at all, you ruined it with that right there. The fact that two men should have been dead from this, and you don't even acknowledge this, that takes away any kind of credibility or any type of realism that any of this should have had in the first place. It's not legitimate or real to, be chucking these guys off the roof anyways. But those spots never should have happened. Shouldn't have been a thing. They shouldn't have done it in the first place. But then to not even sell any of that? At that point, honestly, I was glad that this was the main event. I'm glad that it was over, because after seeing that, I was so infuriated that I couldn't possibly go on and watch anymore. It was, the whole segment was ridiculous. But the guys being thrown off the roof and then they don't even acknowledge it and not afraid for their safety or worried about them in any way, shape, or form, it ruined literally everything. It ruined their entire product. It's shit like this that has ruined professional wrestling or sports entertainment or whatever the fuck you want to call it. It has ruined everything. So no matter how good any of this show was, like that WWE Championship match or the women's title match or the Jeff Hardy-Cesaro match, all of that is meaningless and pointless when I've just seen two guys thrown off a roof and nobody gives a shit. I've been trying to hang on to any type of thread of caring about the wrestling / sports entertainment product for a few years now. That may have just put me over the edge. And to be quite honest, I don't know if I can watch anymore. And if I do, it sure as hell isn't going to be WWE, and I'll tell you, it sure as hell ain't going to be AEW either. From some of the things that I've heard that have happened on their shows lately too, the only one that I have any hope in whatsoever is the NWA, and being with all this crap that's going on, it obviously has practically ruined their shows. They haven't even done a show, as far as I know, in however long. I hope they can at some point. I need a wrestling product that I can somewhat believe in and get lost in and invest my time and just invest myself into, invest myself caring about. Because WWE, I believe, I mean, they've been stretching it for a while. I think this may have been it. So, that is Money in the Bank 2020. I don't know what you guys thought about it. I knew it was going to be ridiculous, but the ending was, it was straight up bullshit. And really, I know I'm just rambling at this point. I'm just so disgusted with it. So I'm gonna end that here. This has been the review of WWE's Money in the Bank 2020. I am Dwayne Rothman. I am the Furious Wrestling fan. At this point, I just may be the former wrestling fan. So I don't know if and when I will do another review or anything. Stick around, stay tuned. There may be something that pops up. You know, double check on Facebook. If I do anything else, I may put some kind of, update on there at some point. But it may be a while. I might have to take a break, if nothing else. So until next time, if there is one, we'll talk to you later, guys.